forward or backwards, but if you stay focused, you'll get your vehicle into the space. But it's a serious persistence is the key. Persistence is not a very glorified word. It's not like glory. It's not like faith. Persistence is, a bunch of syllables and they're all jabbled up. But remember, persistence, it's not the force of a jackhammer that breaks the concrete. It's the repetition. Fast, 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 fast. Be a jackhammer. You keep on keeping on, even when the doors are closed. You keep on knocking. And if nobody opens it, eventually you have to kick it down.
Dad, you are the best. I'm going to remember that so much about the jackhammer, because sometimes I feel like you can try too hard where you lose the fun and the passion of it. When you start making music with the idea, I've actually had this, and I know you've had this in your career too. I've had people tell me, you got to go in the studio and write one more song. You need one more song to complete this album, and it's going to be the hit, and you got to write the hit. You can't go into a studio writing your biggest song. Look, it's laughable. It's fun.
You do not know how many times I've heard one more song. I've heard 10 more songs. I've heard start over. I've heard erase the whole thing. Hey, but you know what? Here's the key. You make your music or you do your art for the love of it. That's the whole thing. You do it because that's what your passion is. Art is art. It can be seen as different ways. You do what you do because you love it. If somebody likes it, that's great. But you do it because you love it.
One more song will never end. It will continue. And so when you feel like you've told the story that you want to tell in that book, there's sagas. One album that tells a chapter. I mean, some of our favorite books, like whether it's Twilight or Games or whatever it is, there's like 10 of them to tell one story, and that's what an album record, where you can tell your story in chapters of your life. Yeah.
Do you know I've only read one book, and that's the book that I need to read. If my BIBLE was as important as my PHONE, I'd be golden. But here's the fact. I read one book, and it's called Think and Grow Rich by Earl Nightingale, Norman Vincent Peale. And it's the study and philosophy of setting and achieving your goals. They wanted to know, how do some people chart a course and say, I'm going to get from this, the storm's coming, pretty soon the waves are down. And this book, Think and Grow Rich, a chiropractor in Flatwoods, Kentucky named Dr. H.B. Bailey I stopped him. His car was on the side of the road, and I was late for work at Greenbow Lake State Park, and something told me to stop. I thought that the old boy was having a car problem, and I stopped. I said, "You okay, sir?" And he said, "Yeah, I'm okay. I was just admiring this cattle." And then he said, "Are you Billy Ray Cyrus, preacher Cyrus's grandson?" And I said, "Yes, sir." We talked a little bit, and he said, "You strike me as, how would you like to know the secret to be, have, or do anything you ever wanted to be in your life?" Well, at that time, I wanted to be Johnny Bench. Ironically, my hair was such a mess, I threw on this Cincinnati Reds ball on telling the story. So in some ways, maybe this is my full circle moment of being a Cincinnati Red and being Johnny Bench. But when Dr. Bailey said that to me, because I'd never had anything in my life, I'd never had any money, never had any success of anything. I think I was voted in our senior yearbook most likely to fail. Honestly, it was terrible. I'm embarrassed to say it. Again, I had never read a book by the time I graduated. I don't even know how I graduated. I can't write. The only thing I can write is my name. I have to print. You've seen that. But somewhere when this man said to me, how would you like to be able to know that whatever you think, you can do? And that turned me on. And he told me he set up an appointment at his chiropractor office, and I came in, and him and his wife handed veg. And I didn't just read it, I memorized it, page by page. And I would just sit and just memorize the philosophy. And again, a lot of it came from the Bible. A lot of it came from Thomas Edison. A lot of it came from great thinkers who had really figured out what life is. And it is that what you think in your mind are the seeds to what will manifest in your life. And that's my gift to everyone today. If somehow in it, but apply it. A good idea is only as good as its execution.
Dad, thank you so much for being on the show. I see so many people writing how much this is helping them, that they've been taking notes, that they're writing everything you're saying down. Actually, someone just said, I'm starting a fan account for this iconic dad. And then someone wrote, you don't need books. You are the book. You are the knowledge. I stand building. So everyone is into them. That's why I wanted to have you on the show. I mean, I inherited bright-minded, but, a healthy amount of optimism and reality. And, also